Hey, what's up? Sunzi here, and today we have something that I've been waiting for quite some time. The Mode 65 that I pre-ordered last year. So this is the components, the bottom case, and the top case. It came in this giant box that on the outside looks pretty ugly, but the inside has this signature like mode kind of like design on the inside. But the box outside, I mean, it was huge, but the outside of the box was kind of ugly. So we're not gonna look at the box. So let's check out the components first from the top one. You can slide it up like this. So what we have, let's see if we can get this set up. I'm not professional enough to do this. I don't know how it is focused. Okay, we actually get a cool screwdriver. That's cool. We get, what the fuck is this? Okay, what the fuck is this? Oh, what kind of premium mechanical keyboard accessories? These are just Durock V2 stabilizers. They put it in this, like, I mean, that was kind of unnecessary, but okay. Durock V2 stabilizers. These do not come with the pack, by the way. You have to order these separately, so you don't have to order these from their site. You can just get these on Amazon. It should be available, so you don't have to wait for that long for stabilizers. Okay, these must be some kind of like thing they use for the mounting style. Here's the daughter board, which is cool. Here's the feet. This must be the 4 screws for the daughter board. Okay, here are the plates. Now I'm interested in these plates because this is my first time ever seeing a palm plate. So let's see what that looks like. You can see I have 2 plates. Holy crap, this is a palm plate? Whoa. Wow, this palm plate is insane. This might even be more flexible compared to, this may be more flexy compared to a polycarbonate plate. Wow, I'm afraid that I might break this, honestly. So I got a palm plate and an alloy plate just because I was like, I have no clue what a palm plate actually is. I've seen sound tests before, but I've never actually like physically touched a palm plate and like felt a palm plate before. So I was like, if I don't like it, what would I do? Which is why I ordered an extra aluminum plate. If I can open this up. Just because if I didn't like the palm plate, I know my safe choice would to be going with an aluminum plate. This aluminum plate is not very flexy, but it is super light. Very light indeed. But this palm plate is just insane. It feels like an sanded FR4 plate that will break like a piece of paper. Maybe the polycarbonate plate is also good. Next time I should try to go for a polycarbonate plate and see how that is. Next up we have the foam, which I'm actually not even gonna take out because I don't know what to do with it if I do take it out. Finally we have the PCB in here, and I was lucky enough to get the hot swap version of this. What the? Huh? That's interesting. So I actually ran out of footage when I was talking about the PCB. So you guys might be wondering why I was saying this is interesting. The only reason why is because this, I don't know what these are, first of all. Second of all, this almost looked like an Alice layout PCB for a 65% board, which was quite interesting to me. First thing you notice is that it doesn't have any flex cuts on this board. And what that means is that, I mean, flex cuts, I haven't actually gotten a board with flex cuts yet, so I still have no clue what flex cuts actually do. Supposedly it's to make your board a lot more flexy, I guess. It's a pretty trendy thing nowadays, so, I mean, you know, I can see it being trendy and all, and it's like a really trendy thing right now, but at the same time, I mean, if this one doesn't have it, so be it. This is hot swappable, so that's good, because I mean, soldering is a mood. I mean, I don't hate soldering. The only thing is that I like to, if I actually have a decent board, I like to switch between different switches, like swap between switches, and either check out how good they are, or maybe like find a switch and be like, wow, these switches sound amazing. Or maybe one day I'll be like, I'm in a tactile mood, I'm in a clicky mood, or even if I'm in a linear mood, like all three of them, just like swapping between them. And hot swap boards just give me, it just makes it so much easier to do that. And depending on my mood, I just like to switch between different keyboard switches. So that's why I went with the hot swap. So yeah, this is, I can foresee this board being a little bit stiff, but at the same time, this PCB is definitely impressive. Just the shape of it was a bit surprising to me. So let's put that away for now. Next thing we have is the bottom case of this keyboard. As you can see, it's polycarbonate. Ooh, it's this kind of polycarbonate material. This is actually sort of like the, I mean, it's not acrylic-y, I would say, but this feels quite similar to the, this feels quite similar to the Tofu 60 board that I built, with all the see-through and stuff. I think that one was like, because this is a very thick, hard, sandy kind of feeling. That's interesting. It can make some interesting sounds, at least. Not sure if this is the... We'll have to see how the actual board looks in the end. And, well, I guess depending on whether or not you get, like... Because they have so many configurations for the board, it does make it slightly confusing of what configuration fits you best. I got the polycarbonate one because I was a bit worried that the alu one would sound a bit hollow and would have that metal pingy kind of sound, which is why I went fully polycarbonate. It's interesting. Whether or not alu is the choice or polycarb is the choice, because I think maybe using alu you have multiple color choices. And you can have just, you have multiple color choices, and then maybe the board itself looks a bit more premium with the aluminum. The thing is, getting the polycarb, you actually have to add more money to get the polycarb, which I guess also kind of makes sense. So actually, this configuration is more expensive than the aluminum configuration. So it's like an extra $20 for the polycarb for the bottom and the top. So it's $40 in total for swapping them out with the alu into polycarb. So I guess manufacturing this might have been a pain in the ass, but what I want to say is that whether or not you should go with polycarbonate and whether or not the polycarbonate is a factor in terms of the sound of the keyboard has something highly to do with the way how the keyboard will be mounted. So we'll have to leave this as a discussion later in the video, depending on when we finish final build and we finally figured out the mounting style of this keyboard, what kind of mounting style it actually is using, because I'm also very confused about the mounting style. And once we figure that out, then we can truly determine whether or not the material of the case will play a big factor in terms of the keyboard sound. So that's the bottom case, and as you guys already know, my top case is also polycarbonate. There we go. These boxes are really nice. These boxes are kind of insane. So here we go. With this one, I guess you just, how do you even, is this how you even do it? I don't, oh, huh? Oh, wait a second. Do you, like, huh? I'll figure this out. I'll figure this out. All the pieces are there. I'll figure this out. But this is gonna be a full polycarbonate keyboard, which to some degree I kind of like feel like if you go with the if you went with the fully aluminum kind of like build, I think your keyboard might look slightly more premium because of the metal. Maybe, possibly it may look slightly more premium, I'm not too sure. But mostly I did the full polycarb because first of all it was more expensive, so I was like, it has to be better if it's more expensive, right? Maybe. So that's one reason. But most importantly, it was because I was a little bit worried of how this keyboard might sound, and I wanted to go with the polycarb just in case the keyboard was too stiff and stacked and hollow, so that the polycarbonate might actually help in muting that sound a little bit. So yeah, let's start applying the switches, building this board, and see how it goes. I don't mean to speak this up a line, but the way you move is perfect by design. You look just like you fell down from the sky. Yeah, you're on another level. You got something special. If I could let you fall in love with me, you know I would. You got me with your hook, and all you got to do is pull. Your move, now it's all on you, on you.
you know I would. You got me with your hook and all you got to do is pull. But baby, it's your move, your move, yeah. Your move. Got me top on you, on you, on you. If you want me, you just gotta say please. But baby, it's your move, your move, your move. But baby, it's your move, your move, your move. Got me top on you, on you, on you. If you want me, you just gotta say please. But baby, it's your move, your move, your move.
Okay, this is the complete build of the Mode 65, these Kinetic Lab Octopus keycaps, they're good, but they're kind of like the only keycaps I have currently in my closet that I've stored up. I'm not actually too interested in any of the in-stock keycaps at the moment, and a bunch of group buy keycaps that I have ordered are all on their way, but they're not here yet. So it's actually the only keycaps that I have. So the build I had in mind when I was expecting this board to come here is a little bit different from what I have actually done, but this still looks pretty good. So getting into the keyboard, this is a nice keyboard, but I do not recommend this keyboard actually to people who are seeking for a 65% endgame keyboard, and here's a couple of reasons why. So first of all is the mounting solution on this board. They advertise 3 different types of mounting: top mount, isolated top mount, and stack mount. And you're going to be like, wait a second, what's the difference between the 3? Well, here's what it is. Basically, the first option is just a regular top mount. The second option is, they call it isolated top mount. It's basically top mount but having O-rings. So you're basically having an O-ring in between the top mount plate and the screws. The third option is stacked mount, which is basically the second option, the isolated top mount, plus a silicone dampener at the bottom of this keyboard. So you're basically just slapping on an extra silicone sound dampener at the bottom of the keyboard. And to me, I think the stacked mount name was just a bit extra. They could have just said here's a silicone sound dampener. I think stack mount kind of made it confusing for a bunch of people. But I would recommend the stack mount for aluminum case Mode 65 users. I have a fully polycarbonate build for this board. So let's talk about the mounting style for a sec. There's nothing wrong with top mount. The only thing is, for a keyboard at this price point, top mount is just a little bit uninspiring. It's just not very exciting. For someone like me, I like to explore new things. I like innovation. I like to test things out, and I get excited with new ideas and new ways of not only building keyboard but also new technology that comes out constantly. So for a board that will cost you most definitely above $400 and sometimes close to that $500 price point, I feel like top mount is just a very uninspiring mounting style for that price point. So when you do receive the keyboard, it's just something that doesn't get you hyped up when building it. So there's nothing wrong with top mount. It can still sound very nice with a top mount, like kind of like solution. It's just that it's just not very exciting. So due to the top mount mounting style of this board, also the kind of modular structure of this keyboard, there was an issue with the plate. So I didn't actually record the build process of this keyboard because I had an issue with my palm plate. The palm plate was actually too soft on this keyboard, and what happens is if you hit on the corners especially, it'll actually like bend the palm plate so much that it'll like snap off and then snap back and then like bend back and like bend back in. It would just like fall off at the side if you hit it hard enough, which is why I swapped out the palm plate with my alu plate. So I do not recommend getting a palm plate for this board. I do still encourage you to like try out palm plates for different keyboard builds. I think palm plates are actually pretty nice. It's just that for this build, I don't really recommend a palm plate. But luckily for me, it was my first time using a palm plate, so I actually wasn't sure how a palm plate would be. So I got an alu plate in addition to the palm plate just for just to be have insurance. So like. When you're getting this board, I can't really speak for the polycarbonate plate or any other plate besides the palm plate and the alu plate. But when you're actually purchasing this board, if you really can't make a good decision, be sure to just grab one alu plate as like for security and just go crazy with some other plate. Just don't get the palm plate. I don't recommend the palm plate for this keyboard. So the next issue that we're going to dive into with this keyboard is actually the lack of space at the back. So as you can see, there's actually not a lot of space from the PCB between the PCB and the bottom case of this board. And luckily I have a fully polycarbonate build, so it's loud, but the sound is deep because of the polycarbonate material and not a metallic like alu material. So I feel like for this board, I feel like the alu metal materials would definitely be more robust for this keyboard build, and also that you have a lot more color options and it will look a lot nicer. You may have some specific keycaps that you want to match with specific like color combinations with the metal pieces. But one of the issues is that the lack of space between the PCB and the bottom case will definitely cause a ping noise inside of this keyboard, and I think that is why they offer you a stack mount option. What they call it stack mount, which is basically providing you with a bottom like sound dampening silicone to fit in between the PCB and the bottom piece here to kind of like negate that sound. And you definitely do negate the sound. It's just that once you actually put the foam in, your entire keyboard will be incredibly stiff. And what is already a pretty compact board, with that foam in, your experience would be just a lot more like hard, because for what is already a pretty compact board, now with that foam, I could imagine you typing on it and every keystroke would just feel really stiff and really hard, and it just might not feel very comfortable. So for this board, one of the things I think design wise that could be improved is that there should be just a little bit more space in between the PCB and the bottom case. I feel like for some of the high-end boards that I've built at this price range, a lot of them do have more space between the PCB and the bottom case for their builds, especially for gasket mounted keyboards. This one isn't a gasket mount, but still I feel like even if you're not going for a gasket mount, you're going for a top mount, I feel like more space between the PCB and the bottom case would be ideal. You just don't want to make your keyboard too stiff, because that actually is not a very pleasant experience. And lastly, I want to talk about the modular kind of structure of this keyboard. Now, one of the things that Mode Design kind of like advertised on this board was that it's like modular. You know, you can pick your own components and like slap them all together. So you kind of have these crazy combinations. You know, you can this piece you can like snap off and you can like snap back in. The top case, bottom case, you can have like different combinations, blah blah, all that stuff. It's like a modular design, which is a cool idea. The only problem is I feel like they could improve that design by trying to make the entire build of the board a little bit more robust, because the issue that I'm having is that even though this is a very clean looking keyboard, there's no visual screws anywhere on this board. Normally you'd have some pretty obvious screws on the back of your keyboard. Even though no one's going to see it, you can still argue that this board is more clean because there's no visual screws anywhere. So the only screws on this board are actually here on these 4 screws on the top over here, but it's being covered up by this metal piece. So once you put that on, these screws are no longer visible. However, there's no screws on the bottom. What you do is kind of like you slide the bottom piece into the top piece. Like you slide it in, you apply the screws, and you should be done. But the lack of screws on the bottom actually is making my board as you can see, you can hear this creaking noise if you press into the bottom piece over here. There's like friction between the bottom piece and the top piece, and when you press into it, you can kind of like hear the creaking sound. It's not a big deal because structurally it's actually quite robust, and it's not like this keyboard is gonna break like when typing on it. This keyboard is very solid. There's no issues with like the actual like strength of its build. The only problem is that since there's no screws on the bottom, when you're actually holding the board and you like tweaking it and like, you know, moving it around, you can kind of just feel this creak on the bottom, and it kind of like takes away that premiumness from this keyboard. So I feel like for future improvements, they can also try to find a way to like secure this bottom area a bit better, because when you like build a $500 something board like this one, and then you hold it and you start hearing these creaks, it kind of makes you a little bit disappointed, honestly. So if they can secure this bottom piece, that would be an improvement. But in terms of typing, it doesn't really fix or do anything. So now let's actually get into the biggest reason why I can't recommend this keyboard to people. And the biggest reason why I don't recommend this keyboard is actually has nothing to do with everything that I just said. Everything that I've said previously is something to consider, but the real reason I don't want to recommend this keyboard is because of the modular nature of this keyboard. So basically, if you go into the website, you want to order this board, you kind of like customize your own board, which is a cool idea. So they'll be like, oh, what back piece do you want? What top case do you want? What bottom case do you want? Do you want a solder or hot swap PCB? Do you want the bottom foam? What kind of feet do you want? Blah blah blah. All those kinds. What kind of plate do you want? They give you like so many options, which is a cool idea because you get to like basically customize and like create your own personal build for this board. However, like, it's not a perfect keyboard. The issue is there's flaws in every single combination that you go for. No matter what combination you go for, there's bound to be flaws, and there's bound to be advantages and flaws in every single kind of different combination, and depending on all the sort of like different like kind of materials you get for your components. And that honestly kind of like once you start building the board and you notice something that you don't like, you start to doubt yourself, and it's like, maybe I should have went for a different kind of like combination, and that would have been better. That would have been my board instead of this one. And honestly, it just makes the entire building process, when you start doubting yourself and thinking that maybe I had a better option, but you can't really go back and redo anything because this board is going to take at least 6 months to get there, and it's also going to cost you $500. So once you like finally get the board and build it, and any tiny thing that goes wrong makes you start to doubt yourself that I should have went with this different combination instead. And honestly, no one can really tell you which is the right or wrong combination. You're just gonna have to go with your gut. And at that point, I feel like there's just too many options. It's too much of a headache. And if you're gonna doubt yourself when building the board, if anything goes wrong, it's honestly a really terrible feeling. I kind of doubted myself when I built this board. I was like, maybe I should have went with that instead. Maybe I should have went with this. So the fact that they provided so many options is cool, but I think in terms of keyboards, sometimes it's just, here's a good combo, go with this, use it, build it, it's great, and just be happy about it. So yeah, that's kind of my take on the entire like modular kind of idea behind this keyboard. So to wrap everything up, this is a high-end keyboard, and what Modesign does, what they do. So to wrap everything up, this is a high-end keyboard, and Modesign does a fantastic job with providing you the highest of quality of materials and components. Everything in this keyboard is just top-notch. It's top tier. Every individual piece in this keyboard is just the best you can get anywhere. But for this particular build, I feel like there's just going to be a lot of improvements. And my take is that if you have this board and you've built it, congratulations, don't have any regrets. Don't think back on a different combination thinking that maybe that combination would have been better. Stick with what you have and just be happy about it and clear all thoughts of doubt. But if you don't have this keyboard, I feel like maybe wait for possibly a round 2 for maybe there's going to be certain improvements or some new crazy thing that's going to come out. I know that Modesign is coming out with a 75%. Maybe that's the one you want to go for instead. But yeah, I don't really want to recommend this because it's going to be too big of a headache to actually purchase this board. You're going to have to go through a lot of things, and there's just too much thought going into buying something as simple as a keyboard. So if you have it, fantastic. Stop thinking, just have a great experience typing on it. But if you don't have it, just yeah, I don't really recommend it. Just wait for a new iteration, or just wait for their Mode 75 to come out. All right, that's gonna be the end of this video. Be sure to like and sub, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.